Hi, I'm Tanguy, Head of Product for Jira Product Discovery. I've been at Atlassian for 10 years, including 3 years working on this product. It's probably getting close to 4 now. The product was in alpha and beta for an extended period of time, and we came out of beta back in June, and since then the response from customers and users has been pretty amazing. So today, what we wanted to do is to try and talk about things in a very practical way. So what we hear from a lot of you is the tool is great, but how should we work with it? How should we adapt our ways of working? How should we do prioritization and road mapping and collaborate with users? And what's this product discovery thing? And instead of being a bit theoretical and somewhat dogmatic, which is a lot of the content that you can get out there, make it super practical with a mix of theory and practice as a live demo in product. So, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about product discovery and what it is, how we define it, the benefits you get from it. We're going to talk about a real team using product discovery, which is the Jira Product Discovery team. So when you are going to talk about your friends and colleagues later about what you listen to, it's how a product manager talked about how they did product management using product discovery to create a product discovery product for product managers so that they can do product discovery. It's yeah, every time I try to explain to my family what I do, it's a bit complicated. So we're going to talk about road mapping, working with users, and how we basically connect the roadmap to the real work happening and how we do iterations and testing and reflect that back into our roadmaps. So what is product discovery? Let's start with a bit of an obvious statement. Who's a product manager in this room? Yeah, okay, I feel for you. Your job is hard. Basically, it's hard for a number of reasons. Most product managers I talk to, and I've probably talked to about 300 by now, they describe this feeling of being constantly trapped in a hamster wheel, chasing tactical things, trying to satisfy everyone, not being able to step back and look at the bigger picture. What they signed up for when taking the role and what their company asked them to do is step back and look at the bigger picture to make sure that the company invests in the right things, and they're not able to do that. Every time they enter a prioritization discussion, there's gut feel, loud opinions, lack of data to back decisions, and it keeps going and repeating every time. Then product managers are asked to defend the roadmaps that they half believe in. And then as soon as you start pressing play on the roadmap, it gets out of whack, and the rest of the company gets angry with you with, well, your roadmap is not up to date, and why is this thing getting late, and when is X going to ship? And at the root of this, there's even something more daunting, which is you are asked by your companies to create a predictable path to success for everything they throw at you. When we all know, it doesn't work like that. One, half of our product ideas will fail. And two, even when they don't fail, it's going to take many more iterations than what we can think upfront before we get it right. Half of them will fail, and all of them are going to be late until they deliver on the value, because that's the process. Good news is there's a better way. Bad news is it will take some education in your company to adopt it, but it's called continuous product discovery. There's a lot of companies out there that have adopted this very successfully over the past few years. Product discovery is the act of continuously assessing and reassessing your priorities based on learnings and data, not just gut feel and opinion. It's factoring in discussions with customers and end users, overlaying that with strategic reasons and discussions with leadership and discussions with your sales teams and your support teams, and taking all of that into account to come up with high integrity commitments, not just do this and then let me know when you're done, but constantly reassessing that with every aspect that's necessary to make sure whether you should continue investing in something or not. It's really what it comes down to, which is you want to make sure that you make an impact. The only way you can do that is if you stop doing the things that are unnecessary and only focus on the things that matter. And that's an exercise that is difficult to do, but that's where product discovery really helps you. To support this way of working, we've created Jira Product Discovery. So we've been working with hundreds of teams over the past few years to come up with this product. And at its heart, it's pretty simple. It's a prioritization and road mapping app that connects you with your engineering, your designers on one side, and with the rest of the organization and your users and customers on the other. Whether that's directly talking to those users or via support, via customer success, via sales, via customer success teams, and so on and so forth. Now, today we're going to take a practical example on how to do product discovery and how we did it. This is the Jira Product Discovery team. Or at least it was the Jira Product Discovery team up till I think 6 months ago. Since then we grew a bit. We're now roughly 40 people. We work remotely from Europe. Since day one, we started as a fully remote team. We are completely autonomous within Atlassian, and we're organized into squads that themselves have been set up to be fully autonomous as well. So what I'm going to describe today works for us. It doesn't mean that it's going to work for you and your environment. We have a lot of autonomy, for example, with our leadership that really gives us a lot of room to experiment, to hit the goals that they give us. But you'll find that I think a few recipes in there are sure to apply to your organization as well at different scales. So let's start, get to it, and talk about roadmaps. I used to, in a previous life, I worked in Microsoft project, and I used to draw all these things with little lines going left, right, and center, and then the plan was great, and then someone asks you to put a task in the middle, and you're like, fuck. Sorry, pardon my French. It just doesn't work. The thing is, a roadmap that focuses on dates ignores the important questions, which is why are we doing this? What are we trying to get from this? So when we think of our roadmaps in the Jira Product Discovery team, we never focus on time. You'll never see us say, this feature will be ready by this quarter. Because number one, who cares about that feature? What matters is what we're trying to move with it. And second, who cares about the quarter? What we want is to get it right. So we have roadmaps that focus on 2 levels of altitude. One is the roadmap we have for the full product. And the second one is one that we have for a team that focuses on specific themes, or what we call boulders. We'll get into that in a second. Finally, in our roadmaps, we talk about 3 levels of commitment. Now, next, and someday, or later. Now is all our commitments, the stuff that we're currently iterating on up until they're good enough. Next are all the ideas that we've got for which we have a pretty good handle on the problem. We've done a lot of validation on it. We're still iterating on solutions to make sure we get them right and still testing them with customers. Later is the rest. Usually it's things where you know there's a there, but we still need to do a lot of unpacking to make sure that we get the problem right. Then for each of the ideas that are in our roadmap, they follow 4 stages. Wonder, explore, make, impact. We've aligned on this vocabulary across the team, but also across Atlassian. When we talk about wonder, everyone knows what we're talking about. When we talk about graduating from wonder to explore, they know we're going to ask for funding and for people. That's super important for us to set this vocabulary across the company. Wonder is basically exploring problems, making sure we land on the right ones. It's the world of opportunities. Explore is iterating on solutions and validating them up until we know and have enough confidence that they are the right solutions. Make is about committing to shipping something. And typically, make goes through a few different stages there. We start with 10 customers, then 100, then 1,000, and then everyone. And impact is whenever something has graduated and is part of the product, we keep watching it to make sure that it's still delivering on the value, doesn't need to be improved, and stuff like that. Of course, I'm talking about this in a linear fashion, wonder, then explore, then make, then impact. You know it doesn't work like that. Sometimes we're halfway through make and we realize no one is engaging with the feature. What should we do with it? Well, why aren't they? Is it because of discoverability issues? Are we hitting the wrong problem? Was the problem less important than what we thought? So it's very frequent that things move from wonder to explore, to make, back to explore. We're still not clean on the problems. And so we iterate like that a lot, which is why the squiggly lines are meant to represent here. All right, so how does that practically look in the product? This is Jira Product Discovery. Who has used the tool before? Okay, cool. Sweet. Quick run through. It's very simple to understand. Jira Product Discovery is your home for product ideas, problems, opportunities away from the development backlog, where you can invite everyone in your company to have discussions about priorities and create roadmaps that they can always refer to. And that's an area that's a bit simplified and cleaner than the backlog for those types of conversations. In Jira Product Discovery, you've got ideas. Those ideas have fields that represent the different aspects of them, and those ideas can be overlaid in views so that you can basically visualize them via different angles, say a view for sales, a view for support, a view for leadership. So what you see here is a bunch of ideas in a board view, and what you see on the left side is a bunch of views that we use in our own project. No two Jira Product Discovery project looks the same, even across Atlassian. For example, we don't use formulas to come up with priorities, but we have teams at Atlassian that use, say, RICE, which is a framework where you go, let me rate the reach, impact, confidence, and effort, and come up with a formula that would tell me which ideas should be explored first. We don't use that, but many teams do in this product. So, as I said, our roadmaps have two levels. This is level 1, and you can see it's very, very simple. We have themes, we've got time horizons, and we've got boulders. Themes represents area we want to invest in. So the first one on the left is growth engine, making sure people can discover Jira Product Discovery, the product, and understand its value very quickly, which is key at our stage. The second one is jobs to be done, which is focusing on two personas. The first one is product managers. We need to solve their problems, basically. And the second one is product ops, administering the product process across the organization. And the last theme that we've got is engineering foundation, because whatever we do, the first thing, the most important thing is when you come in the morning, you try to get into Jira Product Discovery, it just works. That's a roadmap that we've published, and that's available to everyone inside the company. If I go in there and have a look at it, the way people are going to see it is simplified. It's away from the product itself, from the project that we've got, and stakeholders can go in there and understand a bit more what we're trying to achieve with each of those boulders. Now we've got each of those boulders right here have got their own roadmaps, which are handled by different teams, and that's what you see here on this left side. So we've got one for product managers' jobs to be done. And in here you'll see that we use the now, next, later format that we described. Now is stuff that we're currently working on right now and are iterating on for the product. For example, this publish feature that I mentioned before, that's something that we're currently iterating on, that's being tested currently with about 200 customers. And then we've got stuff in next, which is we're exploring solutions for them, and other ideas in later. You can see the wonder, explore, make, impact is represented there. In fact, if I open any idea, I'll get more information about this idea, and a bunch of fields that describe why we're tackling this idea and how it fits in the overall scheme of things. Attached to every idea is a bunch of insights. Insights are, whenever we have a discussion with any one of you, whether that's via a community forum or a support ticket or a live user interview, we capture this here to make sure that it's always available when we are discussing this roadmap and what we've learned and how we're going to evolve it. Last thing I can see from here as well is how it's progressing towards delivery. So I can see that, for example, the sharing one has been fairly well progressed, and I can see the stuff that's left to implement. It's more like a bird's eye view. If I want to see more details, I would actually go in Jira software. But basically for us, those are the different roadmaps. And you'll see here, there's one team that has this roadmap. There's another team that's got a different roadmap for a different theme, but it's still the same now, next, later format. We've got this team that uses the same format as well, different ideas in there. And that's how we make sense of our roadmap. But now let's switch back a bit and talk about how we come up with this roadmap and what is used to inform it. For that, we work with users. And the first thing I'm going to talk about here is how we deal with user feedback. Quite a few of you came up to us and said, hey, what would really love Jira Product Discovery to have is this portal where my users can come and suggest ideas, and then users can vote for each other's ideas. The right ones will make their way to the top, and then we just implement that, and everyone's happy when we ship them. I am still traumatized from my days as a product manager on HipChat. We were using a product to do that. I still have PTSD from it, honestly. In practice, it's meant to create this wonderful loop, right, collaboration between users and product teams. In practice, it doesn't work like that at all. There's always a number one, there's always a number two, there's always a number three. You are not always able to action number 1, 2, and 3. Maybe it just doesn't work on your platform. Maybe you have different strategic priorities. Maybe you are rewriting parts of your app to be able to deal with scale, and you don't have that much bandwidth to focus on these new things. Maybe what people ask for just doesn't make sense. It's asking for a feature, but we still don't understand exactly where that feature comes from in terms of need. The problem is that those 3 things exist and they're public, and so people come in and they started getting angry. Atlassian never listens to us. Look at this ticket has been open forever, yada, yada. And so we would look at this and go, and then at some point, maybe we ship number 1. And it's like, yes, we finally shipped number 1. What happens when you do that? Number 1 disappears from the list. It's replaced by number 2. And the same thing starts again there. So what starts with as an idea for how to make this collaboration work well ended up being a bad experience for customers and a bad experience as well for the Jira Product Discovery team. So the way we've approached it instead is we try to get a balanced view. And a balanced view across a whole bunch of different channels. We do receive inbound user feedback, right? From the app, you can leave feedback and we'll receive it. We treat it more as a volume indicator as to where people struggle with in the app. We do talk to our support team very often. We do talk with sales teams very often. We do send surveys in the product to have more mix of qualitative and quantitative feedback. We do a lot of user interviews. Each product manager in the team has to do at least 3 user interviews they're proud to share with the rest of the team by the end of the week. We do receive feedback from our leadership in terms of priorities, and so on and so forth. And from there, we try to build a balanced view. Now let me make that pretty clear how that works. So, if you're a product manager in the Jira Product Discovery team, you are part of a rotation to look at user feedback and be on the front line for it 1 week every 4. We're 4 product managers, 1 of us, including myself, like every week we rotate and it's a different product manager looking at that. Where is the feedback? Well, when you are in Jira Product Discovery and you click on give feedback and you type something there, it lands in a support queue. And you can see for the past couple of days I've been on Unleash and well, anyway, I'm late. Yeah, it's me this week. And so here we receive a lot of feedback from users, and so what the product manager on rotation does is to go over this and reply to customers whenever it's about something that they configure out in the product, tag the rest as insights added to ideas that are in our project. So that's one source of feedback that we get. The second source of feedback that we get is from the Atlassian community. We have spent a lot of time nurturing that group, and we've got close to 4,000 people who are active in this group, asking questions. We also use that to send concepts, and people comment on those, and so on and so forth. Those 2 areas, which is basically the feedback queue and the community group, are great for us to identify customers to talk to. We then often reach out to them with a Calendly link. Hey, would you like to set up 30 minutes with us? I probably talked to a few of you here in this room already. And then people book time, we go into a Zoom, we record this Zoom, and we upload the recording of the Zoom into Dovetail, which is our user interviews repository, which we then use to tag moments in user interviews, share with the team, hey, look at what this customer is saying, and tag also as insights into ideas. Now, using a lot of technical jargon here to say what? We have people asking for stuff, but then we want to be on a call with you to understand where does that come from? What's your context? What's your company? What are the things you're struggling with? What are the things that work well? And try to get a sense for how important what you're asking is to you in the context of all that and your workflow. When we've got all that, we understand better how we can design the right solutions for you. And finally, we also have an internal channel that we use where our support teams and sales teams are coming for requests, and we answer there. So all of that lands in Jira Product Discovery as insights added to ideas. What you're seeing here is a sanitized version of our project. The real one is much more messy and has a lot of insights in it. But basically, weekly, we go and look at this view, which is new insights for the past 7 days, and we go through this, what was new? So the product manager on support is basically explaining to the next one, this is what happened this week. So more people had feedback about the timeline view. They had feedback about how we can publish a view for stakeholders and so on and so forth. So that all goes here. We segregate it in two parts. The first part is what do people want that's new product value? So we can talk about how we're going to place our bets there. And the second one is what are the areas of the app that people want to see improved? And we've got feedback on those two aspects. So we're always able to see we should fix that part of the product or we should invest in a new thing because nothing is burning currently there. So it's always a balancing act of investing in the right spots. Okay, so that's how we deal with feedback, which then informs whenever we jump into a call and we want to talk about these roadmaps, everyone knows what came over the past month in terms of feedback and what we learned from customers. Those discussions happen super easily because of that. We should do this earlier. This one is not as important. We should do it later. So we don't really use formulas and ratings and all that stuff. Instead, it's a very conversational way of doing prioritization. So back in the presentation. Who do we listen to? You might ask, do you listen to every user the same way? No. In fact, we have a recipe that's worked for us since the very beginning of Jira Product Discovery, which is to work with what we call Lighthouse users. You know Lighthouse, the thing that boats follow to, that guides their direction in the middle of the night when everything is dark and stormy and rainy, which is the product management process. We basically, when we talk with customers, we identify the ones that we want to work with that can help us shape the product. We look for specific attributes. People who are people of influence in their company, they're able to make change. They are great communicators. They feel the pain a lot that we're trying to solve, and they've experimented with 5 different solutions to try and solve it, and it's still not working for them. They're not just asking for a feature, they're willing to adopt a new way of working to solve their problem, and they are not using a competing app because the last thing we want is to narrow down our vision through the lens of what a competitor has shipped before, so instead we want to approach the problems fresh. That's worked for us a lot. At any point in time, whenever we start a new feature, there are 10 Lighthouse customers that we work with before we give the experience to more people. 10 to start with, and then we expand to 100 customers, 1,000, and then everyone. That makes sure that the solution is ready, and the solution is of very high quality by the time it reaches everyone's hands. But how do we find them? We had to be super creative in finding the right people at the different stages of this product. For example, at the very beginning of Jira Product Discovery, we put an ad in Jira, in the Atlassian website saying, hey, product managers, your life is tough, we want to help, put your name here, and let's work together and join us on the journey. It helped us do 2 things. The first one is validate demand. Within 2 weeks, we had 3,000 people who signed up. We're like, wow, that's more than what we were expecting. We didn't have a product back then. We had an idea. And it gave us a list of people that we could contact to talk and then see if they could be Lighthouse users for us. So we went on LinkedIn and we looked at what they posted online and we started to get in touch with them, sending them links to book time. We had roughly 50 user interviews there and we landed 10 people that were really amazing to work with to start working on this product. Sometimes we go to the community group and say, hey, we've got this new thing coming out. Who wants to test it for us or work with us on this? But every time people say, oh yeah, I'd like to try, we then put them with a form with a lot of fields to fill in. And that's not to be annoying, it's just we want to make sure that we filter the people who are ready to invest time and really explain what their problem is. Sometimes we do surveys in the product asking a simple yes-no question, which helps give us some indication as to how, the percentage of the user base that something impacts. There again, whenever they answer something, we ask for a little more because we're trying to get more context and then we get in touch, Zoom, dovetail, share back with the team, all that stuff. So that's super key to us, which is what we call being obsessed with customers. It's literally we're surrounding ourselves with user context all the time, and that's how we've been able to build a great product, which is that customer obsession. And customer obsession is really about just always putting yourself in the shoe where you can never solve everything, but you're always surrounded with more context, different context and different opinions that make you test your hypothesis. So that's all well and good, but nothing in there will work if as soon as we start shipping, we go too slow. So we've got an approach as well to make sure that we deliver, test, and iterate. That's the 3rd chapter, right? Roadmaps, working with users, and now delivery. We want to validate early and often. The first thing that we do is we always try to right-size what we're testing. So when in Wonder, remember problem exploration, when we started Jira Product Discovery, we did not write code. Instead, we wrote slides. And we were putting product managers in front of this slide, or one of the 50 iterations of it. That was like, hey, we're working on this. How do you think it's going to help you? Can you take me through a day in the life of your job? And how would this help you? And we learned a lot because users are able to project a lot in what they see in a slide, and then you can understand their problems much better when they replay it back to you in their own words. That's helped us a lot, and this is super cheap. You can literally create 15 versions of a slide in a day. You can test it in a week by being on call with people. Like it's the best way to test concepts super early in the game without actually going as far as writing code and shipping an app, which is the most expensive way to test things. In the same vein, whenever we start exploring concepts and solutions, we could just write a prototype and throw it out there and see what sticks. The thing is, that takes forever. Creating a prototype in Figma, getting on a call with a user and getting them to explain like, oh, what do you think is going to happen if you're clicking here? What's the value that you expect to get from this? How would this work in your day? And so on and so forth. Those are the types of exercises that help you validate solutions. And so for us, it's made sure we built the right product. Otherwise, the initial solution we had in mind for this product would not have worked. I can guarantee you that. And we validated that using Figma prototypes. And then whenever we're ready to actually test real features with users, we start with 10, we then go to 100, we then go to 1,000, we then go to everyone. There's nothing worse than throwing something out there that's not ready for people. What ends up happening is they don't see the value, they don't get excited, they stop using it, and it's an uphill battle to convince them. It's much better for them to be screaming for something for a long time and then get the right thing, as opposed to get the wrong thing and then just go, they don't get it. But now, let's get into the coding bit. What's the key ingredient there? And for us, it's momentum and urgency. We want the team to always feel like we're late. Like we need to move fast. We need to be ruthless about how we prioritize. We need to keep showing value as quickly as we can. There's many things I've read around making teams be high performing and go fast, but to me, there's really one key ingredient, which is the product manager has to get out of the way. How does the product manager get out of the way? It's by building alignment within the team, so everyone understands what we're going after, who we're trying to help, and understands what success looks like. So to do that, we have two key documents. The first one is a one-pager, which is during Wonder and Explore. The one-pager is where we clearly identify the problem, clearly iterate on solutions, and typically it's a mix of product managers, designers, and engineers. Once we're ready to invest and commit to something, we have a live feature document. This live feature document is like the scratchpad for how we are going to scope what we're shipping to users, V1, V2, etc. But in this live feature document, this is not a Jira backlog. It's literally a document with a bunch of screenshots and scribbles to explain, this is what we're trying to do in the next iteration. Our increments are weekly. So what we do is we have this demo culture in the team where every team inside Jira Product Discovery joins the weekly demo and showcases what they did in the last week, what they've learned, what worked, what didn't work. It gives us a great understanding as to what's moving fast, what's harder than we thought, and we are able to shift priorities much quicker by having this very short time span in between demos. And finally, whenever we start shipping something, it's not done. It's not like, hey, we shipped, finished. No, that's when we actually start iterating. 10 customers, 100 customers, 1,000 customers. Okay, now it's ready for everyone. So back in the product in Jira Product Discovery, let me go through an idea that we did before. So we have this view around, here are all the things that we've got in flight, which team works on it, what stage it's in, is it on track or off track, and the one-pager and live feature documents, but I can probably go into the view where we've already shipped something before, which is, for example, the timeline view. That was a good one. So that's a view where we track all the things that we've shipped and how successful those things are, and do we need to revisit them. And in here, I'm able to access the context as to where these things came about. This is a one-pager. What does a one-pager do? We go over context for what we're trying to solve. We go over the problems we're going after, and try to get as deep as we can in that problem exploration, how important these problems are to people, how people solve these problems today, and who our Lighthouse users are going to be. We name them, and everyone on the team knows them by name and knows their context. Then we go into solution explorations with those users. We do lots of looms and Figmas, and we iterate back and forth, often on Slack with those users as well, and come up with a concept for how we're going to solve it for them. And then, once that's done, we then start the team and when we're ready to go into the make phase, we start this live feature document. So maybe not this one, which was for demo, but that one is one that we had where the whole team collaborated on it for probably 2 months as we were working on the feature. And as you can see, it's like, what are we going to do for version 1? And you see lots of proper designs, scribbles, and just an understanding of where we want to get to by the next iteration. And we do that 2-3 times a week, basically, to look at this with product and design and engineering and talk about it in terms of user value and the experience in the product, not Jira tickets. The engineers then go and create tickets in the backlogs to do these things, right? But the end goal is, are we on the same page as to what we're trying to get to for the user experience here? That's what we focus the conversations on. Okay, so that's a primer into how the Jira Product Discovery team uses Jira Product Discovery to do product discovery, to create a product discovery product for product managers. I hope you enjoyed it.